Hello, my name is Valerie Parente. I'm an author and a poet, and this is my newest poetry and prose collection called MOONCHILD Manifesto. It's divided into three parts: the hurt, the heal, and the hope. The hurt is me going through a really tough time at the same time that the pandemic started, so I think a lot of people could relate to that. It was heartbreak, pandemic, just really painful stuff. And then the heal is reflecting on trauma and coming to terms with it. And there's a beauty in it, there's a tragic, sense in it, but it's I love that section so much. The heal was the most transformative section, psychologically transformative period of my life. And then the hope is me just writing from a fantastical point of view, things that reflect my mind and project my mental issues and my mental, opposite of issues, my mental strengths through different themes and motifs and just things that I find cool. The Seven Swords, I took a piece of art that I saw, and it was of this elven warrior with a sword, and I made a poem out of that. So a lot of the hope is fantastical and uses imagery very, very vividly. So let's go and read random poems. Let's see. I like to read these at random and then analyze them with you and tell you what was going on in my mind when I wrote them. These are very personal poems, and it is hard to read some of them. I feel better when people read them themselves than me talking about it out loud, but I'm just going to try to find some things that work. Oh, I love this poem. Sitting on Skulls and Bones. A pile of skulls and bones, she sits on them like they're her throne, resenting the death that rots beneath, while presenting the depths of her beliefs. So much destruction from perfectionism and ultimatums, so in love with what she had but loves what made it complicated. She was suspended in a bittersweet purgatory, still existing but never free. Not quite in heaven, not quite in hell, and you'd be surprised how bad that felt. So she did what she does best. She poured her heart out and then she left. Convinced there'd be a savior, but no one came to save her. Now she mourns all the love she once had, while the things she loved don't mourn her back. It's a truth she has yet to accept, so she built this throne out of death, coping by spinning gold, out of moping that has grown old. So regal in all her grief, turning life lessons into trophies, because there's so much value in every loss, you don't fully see it until it's gone. Now she sits here in grateful defeat, honoring the things she willingly reaped. Dead and gone, but not dead inside, because this gratitude is still raw and right. This is about a very specific thing that happened. I'm just going to go back. I didn't put illustrations in this poetry collection because I really wanted you to focus on the words and imagine things in your own head, how they looked. So this poem, Sitting on Skulls and Bones, I wrote after looking at a drawing I made. And the drawing I made, I didn't really know what it symbolically meant until I wrote this poem. It was one of my mannequin art pieces. It was a mannequin, this nude doll, and she was sitting on literally skulls and bones. And it was a really cool, gothic, dark drawing, and I loved it so much. And I was just, I think I just came up with that phrase, sitting on skulls and bones, and I wanted to see what that image meant to me after the fact, maybe what I was drawing it from subconsciously. And to me, what I thought it was about when I got pen to paper was someone sitting, a throne is regal and you're rich and proud and it's your accomplishment, your grand feat when you sit on a throne. But this throne was made out of pure pain and something that was lost and something that was very excruciating. So the skulls and the bones represent death, grief, something that I once had that I reaped, something that I willingly ruined because I was in so much pain from it. It was a beautiful friendship that I had to end because I felt way too much and couldn't be unbiased and not in love with the person. So Sitting on Skulls and Bones was when I was in a lot of pain, reflecting, let me just see the date. Yeah, it was October of 2020. So that was a really tough time because it was during the fall when I was missing a lot of the things I would do with this person and the memories, and I was just reflecting a lot. And there's a reason this poem is in the heal section. But let me go through some lines. A pile of skulls and bones, she sits on them like they're her throne, resenting the death that rots beneath while presenting the depths of her beliefs. This is so much about writing and going through this pain and me healing and trying to get all these unfinished feelings out of me. And like I said, I treated the loss and the pain and the beauty of it all like it was a throne, and it was this death that was rotting underneath everything I did, and it was always in the back of my mind, but I was also getting so rich from it because I was writing such profound pieces that were so close to my heart and really, really enriching my own psyche, because I became, although I was in pain, I became the strongest version of me yet. And I became so just comfortable in my own skin and realizing that I do love myself and do value myself, and that I made the right decision because I needed to take care of my mental health and not be in pain all the time, even though it was the hardest decision I had ever had to make. Let's go through more lines. So much destruction from perfectionism and ultimatums. Really drew a line in this relationship. So in love with what she had, but loves what made it complicated. She was suspended in a bittersweet purgatory. Not quite friends, not quite dating. Still existing, but never free. Not quite in heaven, not quite in hell. And you'd be surprised how bad that felt. You know, like, you want to be grateful for the amazing friendship that you have and this love that you have, but it's like, I just couldn't keep doing it because it was so excruciating. So she did what she does best. She poured her heart out and then she left. Convinced there'd be a savior, but no one came to save her. Now she mourns all the love she once had, while the things she loved don't mourn her back. Little did I know, but that was my perception. And I was the only one in pain over this. It's a truth she has yet to accept. So she built this throne out of death. Coping by spinning gold. That's kind of like writing, the spinning gold, making beauty and making art. That was my way of coping with this pain. Out of moping, there's bugs on me. Out of moping that has grown old to everyone other than me. No one else wanted to hear it. That's why it became art that was a little more cryptic than just venting conversations. Turning life lessons into trophies, because there's so much value in every loss. We all know that when it comes to loss in general, death, grieving. I read a quote, one of my favorite quotes in the world is, "What is grief if not love persevering?" And I think that's the most beautiful expression and definition of what grief is, because it's like, it's love that, it's this thing, this entity, this relationship, this soul is gone, but there's still something there, and the pain and the grief is the love that doesn't have that place to go, but it is overcoming the fact that that is no longer there and living on without the other thing being there. And that kind of made me think of this line, or this line made me just think of that now, because there's so much value in every loss. You know, you don't know what you have until it's gone. That whole thing. That Office quote where Andy says something about, "I wish I knew I was in the good old days before the good old days were over," or something like that. That's kind of, you know, the value that it comes out once something is lost. You don't fully see it until it's gone. Now she sits here in grateful defeat, honoring the things she willingly reaped, because this was her decision. Dead and gone, but not dead inside, because this gratitude is still raw and ripe. I love that poem as the first poem I've really read to you guys from the heal section, because I think it encapsulates it so well of what healing is and how it's reflecting on trauma and being traumatized, but also finding so much strength in it and in yourself. That's such a meaningful poem to me, and I'm glad I read that. I think it's really interesting that it came out of a drawing that I had that I didn't really quite know what it was all about when I drew it until I dissected it verbally. All right, let's read another poem. Oh, let's read Not Bionic. I wrote this when I was in the parking lot of a coffee shop, my favorite coffee shop. Okay, and it was in March of 2021 when I did feel like I had gained a lot and healed a lot, but it was like being in recovery and noticing that there's still some pain, and well, you'll see. Let's read it. It says it pretty explicitly. Not bionic. You can be recovered and still not feel okay. Maybe for minutes, maybe for days. The key is accepting that you operate on the very mechanisms that make you brave. You are not bionic. You are not unfazed. You are a child of the moon's display. And that will always mean that sadness comes in waves, but so does happiness. It arrives all the same. It is this temperament that helps you create. It is your reactions that leave room for grace. When you have a memory and it is by mistake, you are allowed to feel any type of way, because you are not bionic, you are not man-made. You are something natural, deep in outer space. You are endless and real in mankind's masquerade. Not Bionic is a very good poem when it comes to recovery in general. Whether that be from a disorder, from an addiction, a toxic relationship maybe, just any. It's about recovering and really being better, and you know you're better, but still not feeling okay on some days. And like it says, when you have a memory by mistake, actually I'll get to that after because that's later in the poem, but so you can be recovered and still not feel okay, maybe for minutes, maybe for days. The key is accepting that you operate on the very mechanisms that make you brave. And that's like, you can't have bravery without horror and something terrifying. You can't be brave without something to overcome. And it's this whole concept is that, you know, you operate on the very mechanisms that make you brave, and that's why you can sometimes have bad days. You know, it's all comes from the same place. Because you are not bionic is the whole theme. It says, because you are not bionic, you are not unfazed. And unfazed was a call out because phase, moon phases, this is called Moonchild Manifesto. Moonchild to me is someone who is oversensitive, and it's, you know, that's a whole theme throughout the book. And that's why I use the word unfazed, because it reminded me of moon phases. So you are not bionic, you are not unfazed, you are a child of the moon's display. And that will always mean that sadness comes in waves. Sadness is never going to disappear just because you're recovered or healed from something. And this whole concept of sadness coming in waves, I use that way of explaining it because waves are, you know, the tides are controlled by the moon, and I wanted to really nail in this whole moon metaphor throughout, you know, sprinkled in throughout these poems. So it means sadness will come in waves, but so does happiness. It arrives all the same. That whole statement, you can't have happiness without sadness, that quote kind of always annoyed me, but it is the truth. You know, just the sadness comes in waves, and just like that, the happiness will too. So it's just part of nature, and the fact that you are nature and you're not bionic, you're not this mechanical being. It is this temperament that helps you create. It is your reactions that leave room for grace. That's where a lot of the beauty is when you're in pain. The beauty comes from how you react to it and how you deal with it. And that, the word grace comes to mind a lot when I think about that. And I think about hardship, and I think about overcoming things. Grace, to do something with grace and poise when you're in pain is, I think, the ultimate sign of strength. And that's not holding back feelings. Grace is not about holding back feelings and being bionic. Grace is about feeling and creating and learning. And this, let's go on. When you have a memory and it's by mistake, this was literally, I wrote that line. The whole poem was written when I was in the parking lot because I saw a Snapchat memory that made me miss someone very much, and it made me very sad. So when you have a memory and it's by mistake, you know, I tried to avoid these things, the memories from this relationship, but I saw it by mistake. You're allowed to feel any type of way, because you are not bionic. You are not man-made. You are something natural, deep in outer space, whatever the hell this is. You are endless and real in mankind's masquerade. Like that whole concept that you are just the universe personified. You are just the universe. You are just consciousness pinned inside a little human brain. You're a receiver of the waves that are consciousness. You're not this bionic thing. You are just deep in outer space and natural and beautiful and emotive. And you're a moonchild is what I like to call it. So I'm just going to read the 2 poems because I think that went really well. And I don't want to ruin it because I do these just, you know, off the cuff, random. Just know when you read it, because that was poems from the healing section, just know, and I don't want to give away the poems, but that the hope, this does end happy. A couple of relationships mixed in that book, but it does come together in an amazing way, and I tried to articulate that by the end, by the last section. So thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. And if you want to buy Moonchild Manifesto, I have it on my website. It's kind of hard to search on Amazon, which is where you would buy it, but I have the quick link that connects it on my website. So go to valerieparente.com/shop, and you'll be able to see a whole page of my books. And the top one is Moonchild Manifesto, and I highly recommend it. I think you guys will love it. It's my proudest work, and I think it's going to help a lot of people. So thank you. Bye.